Greetings and salutations, my friends. Welcome to my Premier League predictions 2019-2020 season. I thought of a really genius idea, and that was to record my predictions after the transfer window had closed. It's genius. I've seen them for weeks on YouTube, and the window is still open. So I thought I'd do them after, cleverly. Right, a little bit of info before we start. I'm not an expert. You'll know from watching my Football Manager. Just I know a bit about football, but I mainly just watch the Premier League, so I'm not going to pretend to know all these players. I'm not going to quickly Google them so I sound like an expert and stuff. If I have no idea who a player is, I'm going to tell you that. It's not a serious thing. It will probably be very long. There's a couple of surprises, but at the very end of the video, I'm going to get my girlfriend Curly to do her predictions, and as we all know, she is like the centre of footballing knowledge of the universe, so we'll look forward to that. I've got no idea what she put in. So, without further ado, let's get into the predictions. So, my bottom team going straight back down this year is, unfortunately, Sheffield United. When I was doing the predictions, I kind of knew that top half was, the order was tricky, but the top half I was like, yeah. Bottom half, there's about 7 teams that I could see going down this season. Unfortunately for me, it's Sheffield United. Looking at their transfers, it doesn't fill me with the most confidence. Ravel Morrison. Do you remember him? I think he's had about 12 different clubs in the last 12 seasons. It'd be great if he was good, but I doubt it very much. They also spent £10 million on Lys Mousset from Bournemouth, who's a striker that scored 1 goal in a lot of games for Bournemouth. He's not looked very good at all. Ollie McBurney, he's a big lad, scores a few goals, but that's a lot of money to spend. I just don't see them having strengthened. They didn't lose any of their biggest name players that I can see. I don't recognise most of them, but I'm assuming not. So unfortunately, Sheffield United, you're going back down. Another team to go straight back down for me is the mighty Canaries. They went on a run last season. I know their manager's supposed to be really good, well rated. He was like the Borussia Dortmund second team manager. I love the fact they've got Patrick Roberts on loan from Man City. He's one of those Football Manager sort of wonder kids that all of us have probably signed at one stage or another. But just looking at some of the other signings, it's all a bit meh. I don't recognise a lot of the names. They did sign a guy called Rocky and they did sign a guy called Ralph. So Rocky and Ralph might do bits, but I'm not sure. Sam Byram from West Ham, I don't actually mind. And a couple of others, but I don't see the massive amount of strengthening, really. So, sorry, Norwich. So my final team to go down this season, probably a bit of surprise to many, is Burnley. Sean Dyche. They've just not strengthened for me. I know they had a better second half of the season, but they were terrible at the beginning of last season. They've signed Eric Peters from Stoke City and Jay Rodriguez and Bailey Peacock Farrell from Leeds. Good. I'm sure he's lovely and a very nice human being, but I've got no idea. I don't know. They've got good goalkeepers. I think they sold one of their good goalkeepers, but they've got a couple of others. I don't know if it's their time. They worried me last season. I know they had the Europa League, but they weren't in it for that long, so it's not really an excuse. I think there might be the surprise package go down, but then, as you'll see from the next 4 or 5 teams, I think I could have picked any one of them to go down. I think it's going to be a very tight race. Finishing 17th for me, this is quite a big call as well, is Newcastle. I know they've just signed Andy Carroll, the Lord and Saviour Andy Carroll, he's never going to be fit, is he? You can't replace Rafa Benitez with Steve Bruce. I just don't think it works. It could be fine. They've spent some money. This Joelinton from Hoffenheim for 40 million, and a few other players, including obviously aforementioned Andy Carroll. They've loaned Jacob Murphy from Sheffield Wednesday. They've lost anybody important? The Army, not massively. Oh yeah, Jose Perez. They lost to Leicester City, wasn't it? His release clause of 30 million. And I think it's a very good player. They've got Almiron, who I think is going to have to carry that team. I think there's just such a big question mark over the whole Steve Bruce thing, the whole fan base. I think of all the managers in the Premier League this year, Steve Bruce has probably the least time to prove himself, because Newcastle fans are already annoyed that he's in charge. So if you're starting from that foot, if you have any sort of bad start to the season, it could be a really horrible season to Newcastle. They might even go down. But I think they'll be okay. But on the flip side, if it all just clicks a bit and Almiron's playing well and everything, then they could finish mid-table. But I'm going to stick just above relegation, 17th. In 16th position, I've got Crystal Palace. Mr. Roy Hodgson's Crystal Palace. Obviously, they lost Wan-Bissaka, which is a massive miss. The players they've bought in, Jordan Ayew, Gary Cahill, he was great 10 years ago. James McCarthy from Everton. Yeah, it's not good. Obviously, they kept Zaha, which is the biggest thing. Obviously, the European window's still open for a couple of weeks, so it could potentially move abroad. But I think most of the rumours were Premier League transfers, so that's all shut now. So if they keep Zaha, then I think he'll just about keep them above relegation. If Zaha does go in the next couple of weeks, I'll just stick him at the bottom of the league. To be honest, I don't think they're a very good team. They've got worse this season. I think Roy Hodgson's a good manager, but yeah, you can't polish a turd. In 15th position, I've got Brighton. I was surprised. I hadn't heard much about Brighton this transfer window. When I went to start doing the prediction and do a bit of research and stuff, I was assuming that I was thinking my initial thought was relegation. And then I saw the players and the money they'd spent. They Adam Webster from Bristol City for 20 million. They got Leandro Trossard from Genk, no idea, 18 million. They got a couple of other players. They got some Romaric Yapi from PSG. He plays for PSG, must be good. They've got Aaron Moy on loan from Huddersfield. He's a very good player, was good in the Premier League. I think they'll do all right. I don't think they'll struggle too much. I don't think they've lost anybody massive. Bill Arce they've lost to Barcelona SC. I don't think it's the Barcelona, it's the different one. But I think I'm surprised. They've taken me back a bit. I didn't know they'd spent this sort of money. There's a few other deals as well. So I think they'll do all right. I think they'll be that sort of position where they'll flirt with relegation, but will be fine at the end of the season. So in 14th, I have the team I would easily suggest is the hardest to pick this season, and that's Aston Villa. The reason being is they've basically bought an entire new team. So they could be Fulham or they could be good. Some of the signings are good. I like this. I rate Tom Heaton as a goalkeeper. There's some. They got Whose House, Courtney House from Wolves. Matt Targett is a really good left back. Tyrone Mings, I can't believe he's that much. Apparently he was good at Villa last season, but I watched him for Bournemouth and he was awful footballer. So they've spent a lot of money, right? I have no idea. I'm going to say 14th. Is that what I said? I can't even remember. It's that confusing. They could get relegated. They might finish 10th. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this team, because it's a lot of random players, isn't it? You got to be really proud, innit? You were an Aston Villa player last year. You got the team promoted, and then basically you got replaced in the summer transfer window. That's got to be fun. In 13th position, I have Southampton. They underperformed last year. The new manager looks good, though. I think they're going to do a lot better this season. I think they're going to have a solid, comfortable season. They signed Shea Adams, who had a good season at Birmingham last season. Danny Ings has completed his move. I think if he stays fit, he's going to be good. I think they're a solid side. I know they lost Target, but I think they're a solid side. They underperformed massively last season. I think they've got a very good manager. I think they're going to be comfortable. In 12th position, I have Watford. They surprised everybody last year, apart from me, because I had them really high in my predictions, and they finished. I had them 7th last season, and everybody in the comments laughed at me, and then they had a really good season. And I think they're a decent side. They've got Sarr from Rennes for a lot of money, and a couple of other players. Craig Dawson's a solid addition as well, not the most exciting, and they haven't really lost a load of players. So I think they're going to have another comfortable mid-table season. In 11th place, solid mid-table, is once again my hometown team, Bournemouth. They've signed Arnaut Danjuma, who I've managed before, so I know him well. I gave him a call and just said, look, make the move for 13 million. They've also signed Lloyd Kelly for 13 million, Philip Billing from Huddersfield for 15 million. They got Harry Wilson on loan from Liverpool, who had a very good season in the Championship. They haven't really lost any good players. They sold Tyrone Mings for like 26 million. They sold Lys Mousset for 10 million. They've done really well with their sales, and I don't think and they've not weakened their side from it. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to have another decent season. Basically, just building slowly, and whilst building a team. Obviously, Bournemouth's a tiny club, so they're building all the facilities and stuff. They're looking for a new stadium. So I think they're going to have another good season. I think they need to make some sort of progress a little bit or show willing, because Eddie Howe's getting to that stage where I think a big club is going to be looking. And if they have another season where it's like 10th to 15th, or they don't really go for it in January and maybe sign a couple of players as well, I think Eddie Howe might be on the lookout for a new job, or if someone comes along, he might decide that now's the time, because it's great. Bournemouth just surviving in the Premier League is an amazing achievement for the size of club they are. But if you're a very good manager, good young manager, and you're just finishing mid-table every year, you kind of want probably a new thing. It's not like Bournemouth 1 year are going to go out and spend 200 million to really push themselves on. So I think could be the last year for Mr. Eddie Howe. Who knows? Hope he stays, because if he leaves, Bournemouth's like, they're absolutely fucked. In 10th spot, top half officially, we have Good Lions, West Ham United. They've spent a bit of money. Looking at their outs, I really think they've got rid of quite a lot of the chaff. They're going to miss Marko Arnautovic, but I don't think he was the best dressing room player. I'll be if I was a Hammers fan, I'd miss his skill, but bit of a dick came across as, and they got 22 million for him, and a bunch of other players like sort of Sammy Nasri, Andy Carroll, Adrian, who's gone to Liverpool, and a bunch of other players. So I think, yeah, that's fine. Get rid of some of this wasted space. They spent some decent money on Pablo Fornals, Sebastian Haller, who I have actually heard of and is very good. 45 million's a lot, though, and a couple of other players. So I think they're going to have a pretty solid season. I like their manager. I think they're going to do fine. So in 9th position, this might be a shock to a few people, I've got Chelsea. It's a very interesting season for Chelsea. Obviously, finally, rather than just getting these sort of mercenary managers for a couple of years and then replacing them, they've gone with a homegrown manager in Frank Lampard. And obviously, they've got a transfer ban. That's a big part. They still signed a player because, you know, football rules. Kovacic, because they had it in on loan, they made permanent. They lost a few players, got rid of lots, but also the big one is obviously Eden Hazard. That's quite important. I think they just don't have strikers. I don't think it's necessarily because I don't think Frank Lampard's going to turn out to be a good manager. He is completely up in the air as to whether he'll do a good job. He did fine at Derby, but the manager in charge of Derby the year before did the same. So it's not like he was like, oh, he's revolutionised Derby. So I hope the fans give him time, and I think the actual transfer ban gives him a bit more time, because he can just go, well, I couldn't buy any players. I lost Hazard, I couldn't buy any players. David Luiz obviously went as well to Arsenal, but I think they're going to struggle this season. They've got Giroud obviously up front, but he's not been a sort of starter for a few years now, and whether he can carry a team, I'm not sure. I think they're the solid team, and I hope the Chelsea fans, let's give Lampard some time. I think he's going to have, unless he does horribly, I think he's going to have a pretty free year. I like, the good thing about Chelsea, they've got a transfer ban, but they do also, last season, had 674 players out on loan. So they've got a decent squad. They've got some really good youngsters as well, and English youngsters that I really like to see get game time, and I think Frank Lampard's going to provide that. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. I just don't think they're going to have an amazing breakout season. I think they're just a bit blunt up front, and so I'm going to have them in 9th. I think it's going to be very close. From about sort of 3rd to 9th, I think is going to be a very close, so they could easily end up in 6th or even 5th. So, sorry, Chelsea fans, but, my word is gospel, so that's what's going to happen. In 8th place, I have Wolverhampton Wanderers. I was going to say a surprise package last year, but probably a not-so-surprise package last year. They were amazing in the Championship the year before, and they've just basically carried on. doing what they've done. They've signed a bunch more players. Love a Portuguese player. Their manager's got an epic beard, which I think probably gives you like an extra 5 points. I think they're going to have a season. I was even looking to edge them up near the top 4. I think they're in that little group now that's just behind the likes of Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham. There's a group of teams, and I think Wolves are definitely in there. In 7th place, I have the Blue-Nosed Bastards, a.k.a. Everton. Every year, for the last probably 4 or 5 years, I've looked at the summer transfers who have Everton and they've got a really good team. And then they just seem to not ever really do it. And I think, again, they've had a good transfer window. Moise Kean, a surprise for many people from Juventus. I think a lot of people just expected him to have a great career at Juventus. I'm really excited to see how he gets on. A couple of other big signings. Andre Gomez from Barcelona. They've got some really good players. They've kept hold of most of the important people. And they look like a good team. And I'm going to say they're going to finish in this lovely sort of group here with 7th, 8th, 9th. I think they're going to have a fine season. I just don't see them breaking into that top 4. Because they never do. It doesn't seem to matter whatever signings they make. And you just go, oh my God, look at the team they've got. And it's like, oh, they're Everton. That's all I got. In 6th place, I have Leicester City. I think they're going to have a good season. They look so strong at the end of last season. It was always a weird thing after winning the Premier League, and it'd be a surprise. It was always going to be a come down. I don't think even the most staunch Leicester supporter thought they were going to have an era of dominance, winning the Premier League back to back, or challenging. And I think so. It's always a weird situation. And I think with Brendan Rodgers coming in, he's got Vardy scoring, and they looked much better this season. If they look at, they've got a really solid team. They've also got Perez from Newcastle for 30 million, who I think is a really good player. Yuri Tielemans, they signed. I'm surprised he was available. I know they had him on loan, but they've picked him up on a permanent. Obviously, they've lost Harry Maguire. That's the big sort of question mark. If they hadn't lost Harry Maguire, I would be really considering them top 4. But I think that just hurts them a little bit. But I still think they're a very good team. So in it, missing out on Champions League spots is some little team called Manchester United. In my first draft of this, I had them 9th, but then I thought people are just going to say that I was doing it because I was a Liverpool fan. And maybe they were correct. Taking off my Liverpool red-tinted glasses, I'm going to defend Man United here, and it pains me. I'm literally wearing a Liverpool t-shirt as I defend Man United. First off, let's get these out of the way. Daniel James, really good, solid, young left winger, left wing back. I think it's going to be very good. Wan-Bissaka looks like a really, really good young player, but like both those signings. Harry Maguire has got a lot of shit. Old slabhead himself has taken... Yes. He's more expensive than Virgil van Dijk. It turns out Virgil van Dijk's arguably the best defender in the world. Great. But when that transfer happened for 75 million, everybody was going, even Liverpool fans were going, well, what are we doing? He's a Southampton defender. Why have we paid £75 million for him? So a lot of people's arguments against Harry Maguire is the sort of using hindsight with Virgil van Dijk saying, if Virgil van Dijk's worth 75 million... how is Harry Maguire worth 80? Well, the fact is, Virgil van Dijk's not worth 75 million. He's worth 150 million. We got him as a bargain. And I think Harry Maguire is going to be brilliant. Ask any Man United fan or any football fan. Man United, for the last 5 years, have needed a good centre-back. And yes, a lot of money. But he's a really good player, and he's English, and he knows the Premier League, and he's an England international, and... he's not only a good centre-back, he can play the ball, he can make runs out. I think he's a really good player, and I think he'll be brilliant. Annoyingly, I think he'll be brilliant for Man United, and I think people need to stop giving it so much shit and comparing the two. It might turn out that, you know what, Virgil van Dijk is better than Harry Maguire next season. But, and therefore, how has he cost £5 million more? At the end of the day, if we were to sell Virgil van Dijk today, it'll be well over 100 million. So... we just got a bargain, it turns out. And I think Harry Maguire, he's coming into the sort of prime of his career. He can have the next 7-8 years at Manchester United, become a legend, He's got that sort of Rio Ferdinand-esque attitude of being a ball-playing defender that can drive out of defence, which I really, really like, and I think that's important in the modern game to have at least one defender that can do that. We have that with Joel Matip. He does the same thing, loves a little random run. I think he's going to be brilliant, and I think people need to stop giving him crap. There you go. I've defended them enough. As for the rest, I still think they're not the completed side. They've just lost Lukaku for 73 million. He's not a bad player. I know people bemoan his first touch, but look at his goal records. He can't be that bad if he scores that many goals for different clubs. I think it's more didn't suit the style that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wanted to play. The reason why I think Man United have got a good team, they still need some strengthening, but I think the reason why I don't have them top 4 or even challenging is 2 reasons. Solskjaer is a completely unproven manager. There's no 2 ways about it. He didn't do well at, was it Cardiff? And then he was in foreign land. That's what I call it. And then he came back and had a good spell and a really terrible spell. Nobody could argue that we kind of don't know if he's a good manager or not. And this season will help shape that. So there's for me, a big question mark on Solskjaer and also a big question mark on Pogba. I'm of the opinion that if a player wants to leave my club, then fuck off. Like, you know what? If you don't want to play for this shirt, then sod off. I can understand the argument otherwise, but that's just how I feel about my team. If a player wanted to leave Liverpool, I'm kind of like, we'll go away then. And it's clear that Pogba does want to leave, and you never quite know what you're going to get. If you force a player to play, are they going to be professional and do their job and play well, and they might be going, it's a shop window, or are they going to sort of half-arse it and just play all right and not be really that bothered? What I'm hoping has happened is that Solskjaer sat him down and said, I need you this season. Give me this season and we'll sell you at the end of the season. Because he says he wants a new challenge and all that sort of stuff. It's just like, work your ass off this season because you'll get a better club and a better wage at your next club if you have a good season. Just give me this and then you can go. And I think that would be the best way to play it. So it'd be very interesting to see if he does. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a bit overrated. People get comparing him to like the top 5 players in the world. I don't see that in him at all. I think he's very, very, very good, but it's just his attitude, really. I'm not sure if he's going to be more bothered about the football or the Instagram, to be honest. But I think they've made strong signings. They fixed areas that need fixing. Just Solskjaer, Pogba. So squeaking into the top 4 for me is Arsenal. And that's because they've got a really good attack. That's it. I think they're weak at the back. They've just signed David Luiz, which you could argue either way is a good signing or not. I think it's a good signing because they needed another centre-back, but I'm not sure that's the one you really want. And it's probably more of a sort of money thing as opposed to, no better centre-backs out there. They signed Nicolas Pepe from Lille. He had an amazing season. A lot of big teams were interested in transfer rumours and stuff. And I think their front 4 now is as good as anyone. Liverpool, Man City. I think they're amazing. I think the rest of the team, I'm not quite so sure. Kieran Tierney, they got for 25 million from Celtic, who I'm really excited to see. I've heard lots. I don't watch much Scottish football. Who does? But I've heard lots of good things. He's apparently a very good player. He's the world's most expensive Scottish player now, apparently. And so he should fill in that left back. And if we've got Bellerin fit at right back, that's good. Centre backs, yeah. But I think they're going to have a good season, and I think they're going to finish in top 4. So the top 3 was, for me, the easiest part of this whole prediction. It's Tottenham Hotspur. I think it's good to see them buying players. They've realised they can use money to purchase players that then arrive at their club and they can play them. That's good. They haven't, I would say they've not really lost many big name players. Michel Vorm, obviously, big miss. But Kieran Trippier's gone to Atletico Madrid for 20 million. Janssen, wow, that was let's not talk about that. And a couple of other players. But they've strengthened with Jack Clark from Leeds. They've got, I'm not going to pretend to know who either of these 2 players are. Tanguy Ndombele and Giovanni Lassosa. from Real Betis, both for 55 million, according to this. And it's just good to see. That's what they needed. It's kind of, they had a really good, solid first team, and then the rest was, it's quite a step down. They've also got Ryan Sessegnon, I think is a great pickup. Obviously, a good young player. Not sure if he's quite ready to just jump into the team, but pretty versatile, can play as that sort of attacking wing-back or as further forward on the left-hand side as well. That's a really good pickup. I'm not going to pretend to know the other two, so you can feel free to call me unknowledgeable idiot in the comments. But they've spent a lot of money, so they must be good. That's how football works, isn't it? I think they are very good. I think they'll finish comfortably in third place. I think they'll close the gap a little bit. I think they'll pick up a few more points than they did last season. And I think they're a very, very good side. I love Pochettino. If I was a youngster coming through, I would want to work with Klopp, Pep Guardiola or Pochettino. I think that those three managers are a chunk above the rest in the Premier League. And I think they're going to have a good season. I think they can do well in the Champions League again, have a good solid quarter-final, semi-final or something like that. And just, obviously they got the new stadium for the whole of the next season, which is going to be interesting. You never quite know how that's going to go, but they should settle in fine. And the new guys should, I've heard good things about these guys. The knowledge I'm giving you, or lack of, is what I actually know, not what I heard about on Sky Sports News. But yeah, supposed to be good, and they made a bit of cash as well, and they've got another English good youngster, so that's really good. So here we are at the pointy end of the table. It's obviously Man City and Liverpool. Which way do I think it's going to finish? And I think Man City are going to win the league. I think pretty much everyone's predicting this, and I don't see it changing. They've spent a bunch of money. They've strengthened. Obviously, they lost Vinny Company, which is always a tricky one to replace. But even last season, he didn't play a massive amount, and they've got good centre-backs. They've also signed Rodri from Atletico Madrid for 60-odd million, and João Cancelo from Juventus for 60 million, with the player going the other way. Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Oh, sorry. The big signing, Scott Carson, on loan from Derby, because they need at least one English person in the squad. Oh, no, it's two, Three, no, he's right back as well. Yeah, they were a really good side with loads of depth that just got better. Rodri is obviously the spiritual replacement for Fernandinho as he gets older. There's not much you can say about Man City. They're really good, and I think they will probably dominate and win the league until their sheikh gets a bit bored and tries another sport. To be honest, I don't see how anyone catches them. I know Liverpool had an amazing season. We'll talk about them in a sec, but the only hope that the rest of us have got, if Man City obviously desperately want to win the Champions League, so maybe they take their eye off the ball a little bit in the league. I'm clutching at straws here, but you never know. And finally, on to Liverpool, doing absolute bits in the transfer window. We signed Adrian from West Ham on a free transfer. Obviously, that's just as a second choice goalkeeper. I do like the two pickups we have made. Harvey Elliott from Fulham, the youngest ever Premier League player, scored for the under-21s the other night. He's got a stupid top knot, though. That's just irritating. And Sepp van der Berg from Zwolle, who's a young Dutch centre-back. He's Virgil van Dijk's. We've had him cloned, basically. That's what I'm hoping. He'll take him under his wing. He'll mentor him, and they'll be amazing together. So I don't think there was much money involved in any of those transfers. I think when Liverpool were after Van Dijk, and I think they were initially they were priced out, or whatever it was, the reason we didn't sign him straight away. Klopp doesn't then go, okay, he's our main target, but he's too expensive, or he doesn't want to come, or whatever the reason. We'll go for target 2, our secondary target. Klopp's very much of I'll wait then. I only want this one guy. I'm not going to get somebody that's second choice or third choice or go down the line. I want this guy. So if we have to wait 6 months, we'll wait 6 months and we'll get him then. And I think Maybe that's the case this season. I think there might have been a few targets. For me personally, it's been it's been actually quite fun. I know I'm a Liverpool fan, but I've quite enjoyed watching the hysteria of Liverpool fans kicking up a fuss in like Twitter and the YouTube comments on Red Men TV and stuff. I read a comment that was going like, last season we just overperformed. We're with these no signings. We're going to be lucky to be a mid-table team next season. I'm like, really? Well, I'm going to throw a couple of, I know, massive cliche bombs in your face holes right now. Okay, Joe Gomez missed out almost the entire season. Lallana missed out a massive chunk of the season. Oxlade-Chamberlain missed out on almost the entire season, and I'm missing one. Somebody else missed out on a big chunk of the season. Here it is, cliche. They're like new signings. Yeah, the trouble is, it's true, and I know that's a really oversaid thing, but it is true. Like, we barely got to use the Ox last season, Joe Gomez last season, so I'm nowhere near as worried. We won the Champions League and finished and we lost one game in the league last season. The fact we haven't then gone out and spent 100 million, it doesn't really bother me. I'm really enjoying being a Liverpool fan, and I don't know what it would take for us to spend to overtake Manchester City. I'm not even sure if it's possible because they have so many of the best players in the world that I think we might have to. I don't know, because they don't lose, so we just have to also not lose, but score more. I guess it's a weird position to be in as a Liverpool fan at the moment, because I'm quite pragmatic, and I know we didn't win the league last season, but I just look at our points total, because that's all you have control of as a team is your own points total. And the fact we lost one game in the entire season is a ridiculously good season. And it just so happens that there has to be a team that's heavily funded, that's amazing, and they finished a point ahead. But it doesn't make us a bad team suddenly. So I'm nowhere near as bothered as other people. Oh, and other people are very bothered. It's funny. As some people for not signing anyone. I think it means more to me that they're actually looking at longer term targets, and then might be somebody that they're after in January or in next summer or something like that. So obviously Man City strengthening, spending another 100-odd million, and Liverpool not, kind of, and you would say that Man City are a tiny bit ahead. They're a bit ahead of Liverpool, so therefore I think Man City will win the league by 5 or 6 points. With a couple of games to go, I think they'll clinch the league, and I think they'll do that for the foreseeable future, which is a depressing notion, but I can't see it changing. The only thing I see it changing is Pep Guardiola is not a manager to stay at a club forever. I think if let's say next season, he wins the league and wins the Champions League, I think he might end it there or just do one more season. He seems to like projects. So fingers crossed, when he leaves, the next manager sucks a bit so we can all have a chance. That's my thinking. But as for Liverpool signings, obviously we got rid of a lot of people as well. Mignolet's gone, Danny Ings has gone for 20 mil, Daniel Sturridge has been released, Alberto Moreno's gone, and all that sort of stuff. Cleaned up the squad a little bit, which I'm quite happy with. But yeah, I'm okay with it. I think Liverpool will be really good next season. I think we'll finish second comfortably, 5 or 6 points off Man City. Man City will win the league again, and we'll all get a bit bored of them being too good. Right, there is my predictions. In the comments below, make sure that you put your predictions. Let me know what you think, and then at the end of the season, we can have a look through and see if anybody got it right or how close we were. I will leave you now on the screen with Curly's predictions, as promised, for the Premier League season. I'll either put the table, change of plans at the end of the video. We just recorded the Curly bit, and it was so funny that I'm going to make it its own video. So Curly, Knowledge Bomb Curly, as they call her, is going to get her own predictions video, which you should definitely check out because it's hilarious. Yeah, she's got mystic skills that we didn't know about. So check it out. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next vid. Bye-bye.